Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I filmed a video. The last time was honestly in 2022 and it feels like a brand new experience. I have some coffee here because I feel sleepy and my head hurts, and hopefully this will help. Also, this is cold and I still have a bit of a leftover cough, so that is maybe not the wisest decision that I'm going to make today, but it's so hot in here. The city services need to chill with the central heating because it is crispy. It's really hot, and I can't open the window because you will hear everything that is happening outside. So I put some heavy clotted cream on top and it's so good. And it's actually 8 p.m. So it's quite early for me. Hopefully my neighbors will love me more because I'm filming a bit earlier than usually. I asked you in my community tab which topic you want me to talk about in this Get Ready With Me video, and you said that you want me to talk about 2023 book trends that I want to see. And I kind of merged it with the trends that I don't want to see because I'm seeing the re-emergence of some trends that I don't really like, so I thought we're just going to talk about that. How's your reading going, by the way? Because mine is horrible. I've read one book in January so far, and I think it's gonna be 2 books tops by the end of the month because I'm just in such reading slump. I'd rather just watch TV, and in general my mood is weird. I feel like it's the winter. This weather is not good for me. I'm planning another vacation because I need the sun and the sea and the fruit and the vitamins. Anyway, book trends. I made some notes to give myself an idea of what kinds of trends we can expect in 2023 in terms of publishing. I went to 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕸𝕃 to see which arcs the website offers, because usually they offer the books that they're willing to spend more money on in terms of marketing, which means that is the type of book that they hope is going to sell well and they're going to make a lot of money on. I think I'm going to do the poreless primer this time. I actually picked my skin and it's very red. At 30, you would think that I will learn my lesson and stop picking my skin, but not yet. I'm not a full-fledged adult. I need both. Why choose when you can have both? I checked 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕸𝕃. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I skipped that. Honestly, I don't want to be in that toxic environment ever. This is actually the trend that I want to eliminate. I don't want to see us discussing book Twitter anymore. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. Honestly, I think that any other social media is not as bad as Twitter. I've heard some menacing things about TikTok because of the virality of the platform. But in terms of book TikTok, I have not heard that many bad things. I'm content with YouTube. I like it because it allows me certain boundaries, and also it's just easy to moderate when you see something that you don't want to see, or when you get cuckoo bananas followers. I checked 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕸𝕃. I checked Goodreads lists because I do check Goodreads lists every single year, especially when I prepare for my most anticipated videos. This year I'm not going to do most anticipated video because I checked my last year's video and I barely read the books on that list, so what's the point, you know? Plus, that video is such a nightmare, you cannot even imagine. It's a video where you have to manually insert the picture for every single book that you're talking about. I know a lot of people are buying physical books specifically because they don't like doing that, and they don't actually read physical books, they read ebooks. My 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕸𝕃 cannot handle that. So I checked Goodreads, I checked Edelweiss, I watched a few most anticipated videos on booktube, and I gotta say that I'm not seeing theme trends. I'm seeing genre trends, but theme trends are not that obvious in 2023. Sometimes it's very obvious and I get a push for a very specific theme, especially in young adult category, but this year I'm not seeing it. Every single thing this year feels like an extension of some trend that happened in 2020 or in 2021 or in 2022. For example, if we're looking at romances, 2021 and 2022 were big on witch romances. We've gotten so many witches in that genre and they were all fun, lighthearted camp type of books. They were not dramatic and dark, and with some exceptions, I'm personally more of a dark, serious, dramatic when it comes to supernatural stuff. So while I tried to get into it, it wasn't my thing. In 2021 and 2022, I saw a lot of interest for vampire books as well, mostly for vampire romances that don't have a lot of substance. When it comes to vampires, I'm impressed. I genuinely am. For me, vampires are an important part of my reading journey. Anne Rice was one of the authors that I read a lot when I was a teenager, and she introduced a lot of themes that are still very important for me. I love thinking about immortality and what would it mean for humans to live longer. So the perfect vampire read for me is something that has gothic influences. And when I see books like Young Blood, which I talked about in my worst books of 2022, it pisses me off because it's clear to me that this author is not familiar with the history of vampire fiction. She has not done any research. She just inserted vampires because they've become popular and she needed some way, and she was looking for ways to sell her book. I don't want any more of that. I want more vampires in 2023, but I want them to be good. I want them to be about something. I want these books to be about higher concepts. Even if it's a romance, you can make the concept of vampires significant. To be honest, I blame Twilight and Vampire Diaries. I blame a lot of things on CV type media. A lot of authors are inspired by those works when they start writing their vampire books, and I wish they were inspired by something else. I'm exhausted of every single supernatural creature being turned into an alpha male type character, because at this point there's a wider agreement that these characters are toxic, but the authors found the loop. Since these characters are not human, you can make them into these toxic alpha characters and less people are going to complain, I guess. I'm aware that I sound like a snob. It's because I am a snob. There's a great example that is immediately on my mind when it comes to vampire romances. You can do a vampire romance and make it meaningful. It's Fangs. It's a manga series. I loved it, and I don't really talk about my comic consumption or manga consumption on this channel because I feel like it's a bit different. So Fangs is interesting because it is indeed a romance. It's a vampire romance, but it has a more philosophical, deeper tone. There is a plot, but it also talks about loneliness and grief and all the other things that potentially are present in a vampire's life. So on one hand, I'm seeing a lot of erotic romances with vampires, which I don't mind as a concept. I think eroticism is something that is very common when it comes to vampire fiction, but it often is very shallow. And I always am looking for erotic romances that are offering me more than just sex. I want it to be about something else, but with erotic bed. And on the other hand, I'm seeing a resurface of books like A Certain Hunger, which is technically about vampires, but actually is about eating disorders and abusive interfamilial relationships, specifically abusive relationships between mothers and daughters. It is on my immediate TBR because it's the type of book that I want. On one hand, we got a cursed adaptation of Vampire Academy. Now, I hated the TV show. I don't think it should have been an adaptation in the first place. I made a video about this. They could have just made a random vampire show because there's nothing left from the books. And I actually enjoyed the books despite them being young adult, despite the big emphasis on teenage romance, because it had something else too. On one hand, we get Vampire Academy and we get First Kill, which I enjoyed, but I'm gonna be the first to say that it's not good. It has so many plot holes, and they had something there, but they should have tried harder because it was just weak storytelling in many ways. Now, we also got Interview with the Vampire, which I loved. I adored it. I also loved specifically the way they adapted it because I was very skeptical. As a big fan of Anne Rice and the original series, I could not be skeptical. And I think it was such a successful adaptation that not only included all the important things from the original series, it also changed certain aspects of the characters in the right way. They changed the setting to match the characters, and they changed the story a little bit, which made sense for how the characters turned out. I really enjoyed this because they actually thought about it, and it feels like they care about the stories. So I'm hoping that some authors are going to be inspired by that and are going to come out with vampire stories that are more this than First Kill or Vampire Academy. Also, the Mayfair Witches, which is another famous series by Anne Rice, is being adapted to the screen as well. Anne Rice is just turning in her grave. She was so adamant that her stories remain the way she wrote them, which is her right. I hate it when fans start saying that the work belongs to them. The work never belongs to you because the copyright, baby. I'm not here to comment on it or critique it. I just know that the Mayfair Witches were also sold and are going to be a TV show. I think it's coming out already and I'm going to watch it. And it gives me hope for witch storylines as well, because if we're going back to the Gothic roots, there's nothing better than that. I want more Gothic fiction. I know that more witch stuff is coming. I know that more vampire stuff is coming. I can feel it. But I want it to be written in a specific way. Another trend that is definitely happening, and I would argue started with T.J. Klune's book, the Cerulean Sea one, it's the cozy fantasy. The cozy fantasy is becoming bigger in my opinion. People are tired of big scale books and very serious conflicts in books, so I'm seeing more and more low-key fantasy. One of the most popular books that is circulating on booktube right now in the genre, I think, is Legends and Lattes. I am yet to read it. I'm also seeing Taken Fisher having a moment, and a lot of her stuff, well, she writes in different genres. Some of it is horror, like straight up horror, and some of it is indeed cozy fantasy, and it seems like people are really into it. This is gonna become bigger, low conflict fantasy books. But I'm also seeing this trend in other genres, like mystery. Have you noticed that cozy mysteries are having a moment right now? More and more publishers are tapping into this part of the market. Dial A for Aunties comes to mind, Finn Dunaway, all the mysteries that are set in cafes and restaurants. I've seen a lot of those recently. And I think It's going to continue to be a thing. It also surprisingly is very popular in the queer fiction realm. I've seen a lot of queer cozy mysteries recently. Cozy mystery is not my genre though, so I don't really care about it. But I'm happy for those that wanted an updated take on cozy mystery and were tired of reading the same authors. I think there's going to be an expanse of options soon in this subgenre. I do think it's interesting that the romance seems to be going into a whole other direction, and a lot of it is due to TikTok. We still get the spicy, steamy trend from TikTok, which is annoying because at this point, the authors started targeting that market, and they even come out with books that are inspired by their audience on TikTok. Like Tessa Bailey came out with a reverse harem book recently that, judging from the reviews, was kind of stupid and half-baked, but she did it because her audience asked for it, or there was some kind of a challenge. She said that she's going to write someone else's idea or something like that. And I think we're getting into the merch territory with it because honestly, writing on demand is not a good idea. Writing on demand is a thing that happened before. It's not a new idea. But has anyone ever read a book that was written on demand that was good? It's definitely a trend that I don't want to see. I also don't want to see more sex-focused books that don't have any development. Romance is romance, okay? There has to be something else there. If we're going to continue to focus on the crazier the better, we're going to see burnout of the authors that are actually writing good books. And I would rather authors write books that are in their heart than write to a specific trend. I also think that tropism is a bad thing, and I've seen a lot of it. I think that at this point we need to chill with it. Tropism is a term that I made up. It's when authors and publishers are so obsessed with the tropes they have in their books, so they just put the whole dictionary into the book, as in you get the fake marriage trope and the forced proximity trope and the one bad trope and the childhood friends to lovers trope and the hate to love trope and every single thing that is popular. There are not that many things that are popular. So you get the whole 10 tropes. I love tropes, but I think sometimes, and honestly at this point, a lot of authors are overdoing it. I'm not reading your book for the tropes. I'm reading your book for other reasons. Give me an interesting synopsis. Give me an interesting setting. Give me an interesting character, a good relationship. I know that it's an easy way to market something, but I think it's getting old. I can never tell if I have enough makeup on camera because it washes me out, and I look just like a pale slice of moon. So romance, I think, and there are so many little communities in the romance community, so you can actually encounter a lot of different things. But at the same time, I feel like romance is moving into a different direction. It's in the let's make up something crazy. Let's make a micro trend happen. Let's write the most cursed romance possible. That's how I feel about the stage of romance right now. I know that a lot of people love indie romances. For me, the editing and the work of the editor is very important, and I think a lot of books lack that in the indie realm. They do come up with the concepts, but anyone can come up with a concept. And I wish there was some self-regulation or something, because I'm definitely feeling like A lot of Kindle romances, for example, are just written in haste and dumped into the Kindle Unlimited program to make some money. And I get it, it's a job, but also at the same time, I'm almost never satisfied when I read something from Kindle Unlimited. I'm not seeing the quality that people are talking about. What's interesting too is that it seems that a lot of big publishers are offering contracts to popular indie romance authors. And I think that it's an interesting blend because potentially this book will have the inventiveness of the indie romance community and the polish that the traditional publishing can give the book. Before I started filming this video, I actually sat down to think if I know about a book that was indie published or is by an indie author that was picked up by 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝔸𝕃 and that was actually changed. And I came up only with Talia Hibbert, as in her 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕃 is really good, and people say that her indie is just as good. I couldn't come up with anyone else, which tells me that the 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕃 is not doing their job. They're picking up the books the way they are, give the author the contract, and I think the authors are like, I'm finally recognized by 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕃. So they agree, but they don't get the actual work done on the books. The question is, where are the editors? I do realize that the editor is not the one that decides these things. I'm not dumb. But at the same time, if you buy an indie book, you should offer them the same number of services that you offer to the initially 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕃 order. So I hope that the 𝕊𝕆𝕃 gets their shit together, because if you pick up an indie book, you should treat it the same way you treat other books or the same way you treat other authors and actually help them with their books. I'm also noticing that a lot of books that were popular in the 2000s and 2010s that are now popular again on TikTok are getting sequels. And I'm so pissed off about this. In my opinion, nothing needs a sequel. Not one book needs a sequel. We don't need sequels. Stop with the sequels. If the series is done, the series is done. I'm surprised that so many people are willing to read the sequels. There's so many interesting books out there, and you're reading a sequel to a 2010s book that is no longer relevant, that you actually might not even like if you read it again. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't want this trend to be a thing, but it is a thing. And I'm exhausted of it already. I think in general I'm so burned out by the sequel, remake, reboot culture in media that I never want to see it. I never want to see it. There are so many good books and ideas and things to write books about. Why can't you just write something fresh? Oh, now I look like a clown. I think that's too much. Well, we'll pretend that it's the cold girl makeup or something. I hear things. I am gonna be an elf, so I guess that's okay. Do we want freckles or do we not want freckles? I mean, you can see my freckles here and here and a little bit here, but that is not the only thing that is prevalent. I'm seeing a lot of books that are like a specific movie, but with that. And the only genre I will tolerate this trend in is romance, because it's often a case that you would want more romance in a specific movie or a TV show, but otherwise I don't see a reason to do this trend unless you're just not very creative, because it does feel like people are not creative enough. I recently realized that I have an allergy to carmine, which is a red pigment from a specific bug that is in a lot of makeup and food. And now I'm scared of using my makeup on my eyes because I forget which shades have that. So I'm going to stick with the greens. Hopefully there's no carmine in that. And I ordered some vegan palettes. I think at this point, if your plot is blatantly the plot of a specific movie or a TV show, it's just not gonna slide for me because I want something different. Even when I want something that is inspired by a story, I want it to be merely inspired by the story. I don't want it to be the same thing. I have more opinions about romance, queer romance specifically. I want more dark FF romances. I don't just want them, I need them at this point. I think it's time to stop being scared of critique. I think it's time to stop thinking what the streets are going to think. I am so exhausted as an adult woman of reading books that try to teach me a lesson. Who do they think they are? I'm not a child. I don't need fiction to be didactic. And I'm exhausted of reading books that are trying to bang me across the head with a message. I don't need that. I don't. It always feels very patronizing, as if I have not lived for 30 years and I've never experienced anything in my entire life. And I think queer media specifically suffers from it because authors and creators are scared of telling a story about a flawed queer character. They're scared of tapping into dark themes. They're scared of writing about outright villains, and I think they have all the rights in the world to do that. People are just multifaceted. We're good for some and bad for others, and that's fine. So I wish to see more dark queer books in general, and sometimes I see that these books make it. Specifically, they make it in the dark academia subgenre, in gothic fiction subgenre, Victoria Lee's book that I really liked, some other books that I really liked that I read last year. But they are rare. They're few and far in between, and I want to see more. For example, I'm very interested in Mrs. S, which is coming out in 2023. It's a dark academia sounding book about two teachers that fall in love and something dark is happening. Dark academia book about teachers. It's sapphic. Hold me. I'm in. So I wish that was something that we decided is okay and we started doing it. I understand why publishers are hesitant because they don't want to catch flack from stupid idiots on Twitter. They just don't want to deal with that. At this point, people are scared of talking about a difficult topic because even bringing it up makes people angry. They don't want to discuss anything substantial. That is my perception. I think that hinders darker queer books because the moment the queer character is not ideal, they fuck up, or something else unpalatable happens, a really loud minority pops up to tell everyone that they are despicable if they liked it. I think that we need to figure out what to do with those people because they're not doing queer media service. They might think that they are advocating for the community, but they're not. They actually make it worse. They make it worse. For example, while I enjoyed Heartstopper, I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think it's idealistic and unrealistic. It serves a specific purpose. It's in many ways palatable queer media for straight people. I know that it's created by queer people. A lot of queer people are involved in the production and it's great, although I never understood the argument. But at the same time, I think it lost its way, it lost the audience that it was actually created for. And the straights are now the main audience of Heartstopper. A lot of it is due to the almost sexless nature of the TV show. I do think that we need PG and PG-13 queer media, but I'm scared that this media is taking all the space. I finished the eyes because the waterline pencil can be a lot. It's very disturbing. I cannot watch that because everything to do with eyes scares me. I want people to stop seeing dark queer books as tarnishing the reputation of the community, or seeing one singular person as tarnishing the reputation of the community, because I think we're past that, or we should be past that by now. For example, I didn't really like Penelope Douglas's FF romance 36 Venom, which is a dark FF bully romance. I didn't like it not because it was a bully romance or because it was dark. I actually loved that fact. I loved that someone did that, but it could have been better. I didn't like the storytelling. I had some issues with the characters. I didn't like the craft part of it, but I wish we had more books like this because I want dark FF romances. Not everything has to be soft and gentle with the girlies, because at this point, I think if you're old enough, you know that it's not true. I'm so exhausted of idealistic versions of humans in fiction that I just want to run away. I just want to see something complex and real and actually human. So it's not a surprise that when I read Lee Winter's Requiem for Mortals, I loved it because it was something that I want, and I don't know if it's gonna be a trend. I don't know for how long I have to wait for this, but I am going to look for those books. I am going to look for this type of media. I have to say that I remember consuming more complex queer media in the 2000s and 2010s. People were less scared of doing this. Even if you pick up a Sarah Waters book, which is my favorite author, her books are full of very human characters that are very much flawed. And also she is not scared of talking about the different pockets of society. That's why I love Tipping the Velvet and Fingersmith, and I think that her fiction has teeth, and I'm so tired of toothless books. The moment we became mainstream, we got so many eyes on us that we no longer can speak. I think I've gotten so deep in this video, deeper than I wanted to. We wanted to talk about trends, and I started talking about something else. As I usually do. That honestly is a part of my personality. You can never have a lighthearted conversation with me because it starts lighthearted and then I dig way too deep. By the way, if you know about any FF romances that are darker in nature, or you want to recommend me any dark queer books, not horror, although I just watched the Yellowjackets and I loved it. You can do that in the comments down below. Please do, because you often recommend stuff that I've never heard about, and I found really good books through you. I think we're going to go with a neutral balmy lip. Tell me about the trends that you're noticing that you think are going to happen in 2023. Tell me, what do you want to see in the publishing world in 2023? Because I think that my expectations and my wishes are very consistent. That's something that I always want from the publishing world, so it's been nice to hang out. It took me way too much time to put makeup on, but it's been a while. Plus, I'm hoping to not get red puffy eyes this time. You're always a good company. Let's chat in the comments down below because that's the point of the video. I wouldn't be surprised if you're more observant than me. I kind of checked out from the booktube community in 2022 and was doing my own thing. So if you have any insight, if you want to share, please do in the comments down below. And tell me about the books that you've read already in 2023. How is your reading year? Thank you again. I will go film another video now, and I will see you soon.